At a government affair, the wives of 4 world leaders are chatting about how people refer to a penis in their countries. The wife of Sunak says, "In England people call it a gentleman because it stands up when women wants to sit down." The wife of Putin says, "In Russia, you call it a patriot because you never know if it will hit you on the front or on the backside." The wife of Macron says, "In France, you call it a curtain because it goes down after the act." With great resignation, the wife of Biden says, "In the USA, you call it a rumor because it goes from mouth to mouth." 3 ministers are talking about how they treat the collection plate take. The first minister says, "I draw a circle of the floor and then toss the money in the air. Any money that lands in the circle goes to the church. Whatever lands outside of it goes to me." "That's pretty much my system," the second minister replies. "I draw a line on the floor and then toss the money in the air. Everything on one side goes to the church. Everything on the other side goes to me." The third minister nods, saying, "The way I do it, I toss the money in the air. Whatever God catches, he can keep." A big city lawyer is representing the railroad in a lawsuit filed by an old rancher. The rancher's prize bull has gone missing from the section through which the railroad passes. The rancher claims that the bull must have been hit by the train and wants to be paid the fair value of the bull. The case is scheduled to be tried before the justice of the peace in the back room of the general store. As soon as the rancher shows up, the attorney for the railroad pulls him aside and tries to get him to settle out of court. The lawyer makes his best sales pitch, and finally, the rancher agrees to take half of what he was asking. After the rancher signs the release and takes the check, the young lawyer can't resist gloating a little over his success, telling the rancher, "You know, I hate to tell you this, old man, but I put one over on you in there. I couldn't have won the case. The engineer was asleep and the fireman was in the caboose when the train went through your ranch that morning. I didn't have one witness to put on the stand. I bluffed you." The old rancher replies, "Well, I'll tell you, young feller, I was a little worried about winning that case myself, because that dang bull came home this morning." A pirate walked into a bar and the bartender said, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. What happened? You look terrible." "What do you mean?" said the pirate. "I feel fine." "What about the wooden leg? You didn't have that before." "Well," said the pirate, "we were in a battle and I got hit with a cannonball, but I'm fine now." The bartender replied, "Well, okay, but what about that hook? What happened to your hand?" The pirate explained, "We were in another battle. I boarded a ship and got into a sword fight. My hand was cut off. I got fitted with a hook, but I'm fine, really." "What about that eye patch?" "Oh," said the pirate, "one day we were at sea, and a flock of birds flew over. I looked up, and one of them pooped in my eye." "You're kidding," said the bartender. "You couldn't lose an eye just from bird poo." "It was my first day with the hook." A woman has to go to Italy for a conference, so her husband drives her to the airport. "Thank you, honey," she says. "Is there anything I can bring back for you?" He laughs and says, "An Italian girl." When the conference is over, he meets her at the airport and asks, "How was the trip?" "Very good," she replies. "And what happened to my present?" he asks. Confused, she replies, "Which present?" "The one I asked for, the Italian girl," he answers. With a sly grin, she replies, "Oh, that. I did what I could, but we'll just have to wait 9 months to see if it's a girl." 3 guys discuss whose wife is the most stupid. "Mine bought a kitchen for $10K and she cannot even cook." "Yeah, mine bought a car for $20K and she cannot drive." "Ah, that's nothing. Mine bought 100 condoms for a business trip and she does not even have a penis." The first guy replies, "Well, your case is different. You're stupid." A few minutes before the church services started, the congregation was sitting in their pews and talking. Suddenly, Satan appeared at the front of the church. Everyone started screaming and running for the back entrance, trampling each other in a frantic effort to get away from the evil incarnate. Soon the church was empty except for one elderly gentleman who sat calmly in his pew without moving, seemingly oblivious to the fact that God's ultimate enemy was in his presence. So Satan walked up to the man and said, "Do you know who I am?" The man replied, "Yep, sure do." "Aren't you afraid of me?" Satan asked. "Nope, sure ain't," said the man. "Don't you realize I can kill you with one word?" asked Satan. "Don't doubt it for a minute," returned the old man in an even tone. "Did you know that I can cause you profound, horrifying agony for all eternity?" persisted Satan. "Yep," was the calm reply. "And you're still not afraid?" asked Satan. "Nope," said the old man. Totally perplexed, Satan asked, "Well, may I ask why you're not?" The man calmly replied, "Been married to your sister for 48 years. An elderly couple was just settled down for bed when the old man realized he left the lights on in the greenhouse in the backyard. Then they heard voices. 3 men had broken into the greenhouse. Scared, they called the police. The dispatcher replied he would send an officer as soon as one became available, as they were all out on calls. The old man waited for a few minutes and called dispatch again. He told dispatch, "Don't worry about sending an officer. I shot the robbers, and now the dogs are eating their bodies." In no time at all, police were all over the place and captured the robbers red-handed. One of the cops asked the old man, "I thought you said you shot the robber and your dogs were eating them." The old man replied, "I thought you said there weren't any officers available." A young doctor had moved to a small community near Broken Hill to replace a doctor who was retiring. The older doctor suggested that the young one accompany him on his rounds so that the community would become used to their new doctor. At the first house, a woman complains, "I've been a little sick to my stomach." The older doctor says, "Well, you've probably been overdoing the fresh fruit. Why not cut back on the amount you've been eating and see if that does the trick?" As they left, the younger man said, "You didn't even examine that woman. How did you come to your diagnosis so quickly?" "I didn't have to. You noticed I dropped my stethoscope on the floor in there? When I bent over to pick it up, I noticed a half-dozen banana peels in the waste bin. I knew that was what probably was making her sick." The younger doctor said, "Pretty clever. If you don't mind, I think I'll try that at the next house." Arriving at the next house, they spent several minutes talking with a younger woman. She said that she just didn't have the energy she once had, and said, "I'm feeling terribly run down lately." "You've probably been doing too much for the church," the younger doctor told her. "Perhaps you should cut back a bit and see if that helps." As they left, the elder doctor said, "I know that woman well. Your diagnosis is almost certainly correct. She's very active in the church, but how did you arrive at it?" "I did what you did at the last house. I dropped my stethoscope, and when I bent down to retrieve it, I noticed the vicar under the bed."